Hi everyone. Welcome to part 5 of our series on vaccines. My name is Brian Mills. In this video, we will look at the potential side effects of vaccines, some common misnomers surrounding vaccines, and then shift our focus to the future of vaccines. On the topic of vaccine side effects, it is important to remember that most individuals show very mild side effects that last only a short time, if at all. Side effects of vaccines are broken down into two categories: common and rare. Some of the common vaccine side effects that are seen are an injection site reaction that exhibits pain, swelling, and redness, mild fever, some shivering with that fever, fatigue, headache, and some muscle and joint pain. The more serious side effects that are seen are immediate allergic reactions, the most concerning of which would be an anaphylactic reaction, something that is stopping the airway from working properly, causing the patient to feel respiratory distress. Rash, hives, and itching are also accompanied with immediate allergic reactions. However, these reactions occur less than 1 in a million cases and fortunately can be reversed if treated promptly by healthcare staff. Some vaccine misnomers that are rampant in today's society can be covered, and we begin with diseases began to disappear before vaccines were introduced because of better hygiene and sanitation. Although we do have better hygiene and sanitation in today's world, virtually no data, all data shows that disease incidence occurrence dropped with the introduction of vaccines. And several epidemics have occurred in developed countries such as Great Britain and Japan when immunizations for certain diseases were dropped. A great example of this occurrence was in Great Britain when they allowed the pertussis vaccination to drop in 1974. This led to an epidemic, an outbreak of over 100,000 cases of pertussis up to 1978 when they resumed normal pertussis vaccination. Another misnomer: the majority of people who get diseases have been vaccinated. While this is somewhat true, the true facts have to be examined, the numbers themselves. Not all vaccines are 100% effective, as we know, because some individuals are still susceptible to certain diseases even after being vaccinated. An example to look at this common misnomer is out of 1,000 students who were subjected to measles, let's say out of 1,000 students, 100% of those who are non-vaccinated would get that disease. However, of those that were vaccinated for measles, only less than 1% of those individuals would become infected from measles. The bottom line is there may be more, as in numbers, of vaccinated people getting the measles, but 99% were protected from the beginning. So to say that the majority of people who get diseases have been vaccinated is somewhat untrue. Another misnomer: vaccines cause many harmful side effects, illnesses, and death. Maybe even autism has been reported in some cases. Although there is no evidence to support such a claim. Many believed in previous years that SIDS was the result of the DTP vaccine because it was administered around the same time that a child could be susceptible to SIDS. However, studies from the 1980s show that these occurrences of SIDS would have likely occurred either way if the vaccine was administered or not. The bottom line here, although there may be side effects to vaccines, the greater risk is the disease the vaccine is trying to prevent. Our last misnomer: vaccine preventable diseases have been eliminated in my country, so there is no longer a need for vaccines. This ideal is very prevalent in the United States now in some communities because they feel if no one has the disease, why should I be vaccinated against it? And although we have removed many diseases in the United States, the thing to remember is they're still prevalent in other parts of the world. And because the world is getting smaller and smaller, travelers from other countries where those diseases are quite prevalent unknowingly bring these to the United States when on travel. If we were to discontinue vaccinations for such diseases, the chance for an epidemic in the United States would be quite high, and we have seen circumstances of this on the West Coast in San Diego in recent years. The future of vaccines. Most are intimately familiar with the current way vaccines are administered, via injection, such as the picture on the right, where he has the influenza virus vaccine. Some vaccines have already started being administered in different ways. Speaking of the flu vaccine, via nasal spray. This is common for young children. Live vaccines for polio are also being administered in different ways, specifically in an oral fashion. So what are the next steps to take for the administration of vaccines? One common way that we are shifting towards is the use of needle-free skin patches, like the one on the right. And it's basically a patch containing a matrix of very tiny needles that doesn't use a syringe. You simply place it over your arm or any part of the body that is prescribed by your physician, and the vaccine goes through the skin in a much less invasive manner than with a syringe. Other researchers are focusing on edible plant vaccines, another oral fashion to administer vaccines. The last bastion of vaccines is targeting new diseases. 4 of them are written here. One of the main ones is Alzheimer's disease. As we know, it is the most common neurodegenerative disorder, and it becomes very expensive to maintain once a person has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Cancer of all forms is being targeted for vaccination, which would help extremely in the 21st century. And current vaccines can already reduce cervical cancer rates by up to 70%. Malaria. A tricky thing about malaria is that it can easily evade immune response of the body. And this certain pathogen changes quite often throughout its life cycle, so it's hard to target. However, if we were to develop a vaccine for malaria, it would save millions of lives. And lastly, HIV, which is very important to prevent the occurrence of AIDS after a person has had HIV for a number of years. However, this is a very difficult vaccine to administer because even minute amounts of the disease, if it's been attenuated even, can cause a lifelong infection. And simply put, the risk is greater than the reward at this point in time. And that concludes our 5-part series on vaccinations. I thank you for viewing.